We should tell him the truth.
Things just got out of hand.
You break the rules. Look out! To become a hero. I do it, I become the enemy. It doesn't seem fair.
Sorcerers, fortify your minds. Today we are going to lose our fucking minds because we're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is a spoiler talk video, so once again, if you're here looking for non-spoilers, you're not gonna get it here. I feel like there's no reason to not talk about spoilers with this movie, and there's no way I can basically hop around the fence and explain to you guys some of the crazy shit that happens in this movie without spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, if you have not had the chance to get into the theater and watch it in that sexy real 3D, then you're missing out. Go watch it and enjoy yourselves from there, then come back and we could chop it up in the comment section. So basic premises and the synopsis of this film. In the beginning, there is Defender Strange. He is protecting a young teenager called America Chavez. We don't know much about Chavez, but comic book readers will know a little bit about her, but I think she was great in this movie. So we fast forward. Defender Strange basically gets killed. He gets a wound in his leg, the little dangly bits, not the other extremities. I'm talking about the calf here. He gets a fucking skewer right in the calf, and we see this skewer get infected, which I assume is the Darkhold. The Darkhold is one of the books that Wanda read at the end of WandaVision, where she's reading it, she wants her kids back, and she will do anything to live in that reality. This will come up later. This is one of the main plot points of the film as I go along. So we fast forward to Doctor Strange, you know, losing his ex-girlfriend because he goes to her marriage or whatever, Christine Palmer, that was in the first movie, and she moved on to another man, like the tramp that she is. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, after Strange was fighting in so many wars, trying to defend everything happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, trying to also deal with Spider-Man in the last movie because he was in No Way Home and dealing with those shenanigans, Christine Palmer said fuck it with that fat ass. She said fuck it, and she moved on to someone else that wasn't Doctor Strange. So you see the personal emotions come out because these are superheroes leading dual lives. Like, because Strange decided to keep the knife in his hand and continue on with his work, he really didn't think about the people that were around him, including Christine. So it comes up with this external internal conflict. You know, am I really happy? Am I really happy doing what I do while sacrificing some of the stuff that I love in the process? Am I really at peace with myself? And he says it, he says he's happy, but he's really not inside. And you can see the pain on his face as he deals with his ex moving on to someone else. So fast forward to that, and we see the giant kaiju fight in the middle of the street. Big Wallace, the octopus, or Gargantos, which is not Shumagarath. Sad face. I'm so sad about that it wasn't Shumagarath, but he gets dispatched pretty quickly, so maybe I'm kind of happy that it's a low-level villain that you see in the comic getting his eyeball ripped out like the fucking Cyclops from God of War. You see that shit where you press like the circle button, Kratos pulls out that eyeball like a mother bitch, and then he throws it on the ground. That's exactly what happened to Gargantos. He's done, he's dispatched. And then you find out that all these demons are coming after America Chavez, and you see Wanda lying with those black fingertips, 100% influenced by the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned, which makes you do crazy things. It makes you into a mad person. Wanda gives Strange an ultimatum. She says that either Strange will peacefully surrender America Chavez to her in order to finally tap into Chavez's powers and be with these artificial children that are mind created in Westview, or Strange will suffer the consequences. She won't be coming as Wanda, she'll be coming as the Scarlet Witch. And I know all those Wanda fans were going crazy when she was asserting her dominance in the middle of all this, and Strange was like, this bitch is crazy. This bitch is actually insane, right? So they move on to Kamartash, which is the temple that Strange and all the people from the Ancient One is sort of training under Sorcerer Supreme Wong. And then they have to fortify the base because Wanda is coming. She attacks, takes Chavez, and then in this skirmish, they go to other dimensions because Strange pushes Chavez out of the way, and then they go through all these differing dimensions before landing into universe 838, which is the primary universe that they visit in this movie. Then it's basically like a chase movie at this point. They're trying to stop Chavez from getting into the hands of Wanda to prevent Wanda from getting what she wants, and the whole movie just plays out in a dramatic effect from there. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I think it was incredible. On my second watch, like the first time I saw it, I felt like this was a film that needed two watches, because the first time I was like, this is gonna be a very divisive movie with some of the choices and considerations that they did. And I was very skeptical of this movie being like just 2 hours and 6 minutes, because, you know, the good MCU films, the one that really sets up like a lot of things in the timelines and they really tell a lot of the story, they usually are like 3 hours long, or maybe like 2 hours and 30 minutes, like Spider-Man No Way Home. And even that movie didn't feel long enough to some people. But it's Sam Raimi, man. It's Sam Raimi's directing style, the way he can sort of build a plot with these characters and make everything feel organic in a limited amount of time was so gripping to me. I think one of the things that stands out the most is how Strange like grew as a person when he came to accept, you know, I can move on from this, I can deal with this, I'm still in pain, but I need to express myself. I have these memories, I have these repressed memories. When he steps on the memory machine in universe 838, and you can see he still cares about Christine and he doesn't want to let her go, but in order to be that hero, tap into that and have some sort of closure, he must embrace who he is, which is, you know, being this self-righteous hero at the end of the day who's like stoic, but at the same time a lot of people grow to like Strange. And Chavez in this movie was fine. She was a nice support. I see people saying she was a Mary Sue, which honestly, after watching the film, she wasn't. Like half the time she was getting captured by Wanda, being thrown all over the place, like a bunch of shit happening. Is this movie better than the first Doctor Strange film? I will say yes, because you're building an origin story with the first one. You're trying to establish this is how Strange messed up his hands and everything like that. Whereas this movie, it says it in the title, Multiverse of Madness. So you're going to expect like very crazy things going on. This is like somewhat of the greater MCU, dealing with more characters, having a more broader appeal than the first movie, where you kind of have that slow burn where it's like you have to sort of understand these characters before they become who they are. And I think this movie just throws you right into the fray. It's a Sam Raimi film, so you really feel that tension in most of these scenes, which I'm going to talk about later. The main thing that everyone's raving about right now is the fact that, of course, it deals with the multiverse, so split into other dimensions. Now, there's some criticism in how they handled the multiverse. It's kind of a sizzle reel in the movie, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when Chavez and Strange is like jumping through portal to portal to escape Wanda, you see all these interesting worlds. You see a cartoon world, one in black and white and sepia. You see other worlds, you see other things being displayed. I think the most interesting one was the paint world, where they say, you know, in that world you really can't eat. So Chavez has all this familiarity and it's just building up on telling the fun exposition to the viewer, which I really liked. I saw also Bruce Campbell as well, like I said, Sam Raimi film, so you're gonna have Bruce Campbell just walk about and do stuff and try to squirt mustard in Doctor Strange's face, but he puts a spell on him and then he proceeds to beat the shit out of himself, and I thought that was a riot. I thought that was nice. The Evil Dead hand thing where he's just beating himself up and all that other shit, just some nice jokey references overall. But the main criticism is that they didn't show that many multiverses, and I agree with this. They only show one, which is 838, and honestly I felt like maybe they could squeeze 2 or a little bit more, like even just because they showed the excursion world where everything was all fucked up, so why not focus a little bit more time into these other multiverses that we saw in the sizzle reel? I felt like this movie primarily focused on universe 838, and that was the main bulk of the movie. That was it. For Multiverse of Madness, you would expect like maybe a little bit more flavor in the mix, a little bit more hot sauce, you know, on that equation, but they didn't do that, and I think the movie was not long enough to accommodate it. I heard that like maybe 30 minutes were cut, but that's just hearsay that I'm going off of. Anyway, they spend their time in universe 838, and this is where the cameos come in that made everybody pop, that made some people mad, and this is what happened. So the Ultron bots eventually restrain Doctor Strange, and then we see the big cameo of the Illuminati. You know, you cue that X-Files music here, you cue that up with the Illuminati, and you see the members of it, which was, I think one of them was Mordo, I think another one was Maria Rambeau, which is, you know, one of the Captain Marvels in that universe. She was there, and then there was Captain Carter, which was, you know, I forget her actress, but basically Peggy Carter as Captain America. And then there was Black Bolt, which surprised me because this was a Inhumans representation, and there was a lot of drama with the MCU and the Humans, and Feige basically getting this movie dumped on his lap by Ike Perlmutter. I was very happy to see Anson Mount, the character who did Black Bolt, come back in this role. I would say the 2 biggest members of the Illuminati was, number 1, Professor X, Charles Xavier, coming out in the wheelchair just with the X-Men jingle. I felt that nostalgic kick in my heart when I heard that music, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. They're introducing Patrick Stewart yet again in this iconic role, and it's like he never really lost it, man. And then we have the popular fan cast, which is John Krasinski as Mr. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. And I thought this was wild to me, because it's like, considering what happens next, you don't really want to lose out on this premise, which is John Krasinski doing the role and actually providing a nice stoic Reed Richards. You know, it really feels just like that character when he talks and moves and speaks and empathizes with Wanda in the later scene, with how children are introduced and how they sort of feel the same, because I guess they're referring to Nathaniel Richards. But as we continue on, the Illuminati basically says we had a Doctor Strange of our universe and he was messing with the Darkhold, and we had to destroy him while we also killed Thanos in our universe as well. So they had to kill that Doctor Strange for causing an incursion in another universe and getting basically all these people killed, because messing with the Darkhold is some serious business. Then Wanda comes. She comes after everyone, and then the members of the Illuminati are like, we got this, we can handle this little bitch, we don't gotta worry about nothing, and they automatically get stomped. Like, I would say Wanda is, this is a wrestling, you know, reference, so forgive me, but I would say Wanda is like basically old school Triple H, and everyone else is just trying to challenge her and she has the fucking sledgehammer and she buries everybody. She kills Mr. Fantastic, turning him into a pile of shrimps and tearing him apart and blowing his head up. And I was like, oh shit, well, goodbye, John Krasinski. And then she kills everybody else. Captain Carter, who made this amazing line, you know, I could do this all day, you know, once again harkening back to that Captain America spirit. And then she kills her, slicing her in half with the shield. And then the Captain Marvel of that universe is also killed, and then everyone's dying. Like, this is a multiverse affair where this entire universe of cameos, Sam Raimi is like, I'm not having it, put a bullet in him, it's done. But I can see why people are going to hate this scene. Me personally, I'm like, they had to build Wanda to make her stronger to be the villain of this movie. If I had to rationalize everything, I would say that the first mistake of Universe 838 was underestimating Wanda, because they had a Wanda of that universe who was significantly weaker than the Wanda in Universe 616. And therefore they were saying, you know, we could take care of this little fly, no problem. They greatly underestimated that character, and that led to their downfall. They had to make Wanda strong, even by just dispatching all the characters that you love the most. Once again, Universe 838 is going to be in shambles after this. What matters the most is what happens in Universe 616. So as long as we see those characters come back, like John Krasinski after getting sliced up like a tomato, as long as they come back in those roles and they have a significant story portion that could be built on in the future as Universe 616 goes on, then really who cares that they killed off a bunch of variants in another universe. Wanda looks strong, and they underestimated completely. Now, it is bullshit that Professor X lost in the astral plane, because once again, that is his home turf. That is where he is king with his mental projection. So it's weird that Wanda somehow defeated him and pulled off his jaw. I thought that was a little bit strange, but again, Doctor Strange, that was a little bit strange. Doctor Strange, I got you there, buddy. I got my fucking self right there with that reference. But anyway, moving on. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, if he's just a variant, then it's okay. It's okay, because there's multiple Stephen Stranges played by Benedict Cumberbatch, so why not multiple characters played by the same actor, but just relevant to our universe when we get there, you know what I mean? And I think they are going to get there. If they don't do anything with Reed Richards after this with his actor John Krasinski, then it's a waste, right? As we continue on, we basically ask ourselves like a couple of questions, like, is this movie even better than the first Doctor Strange? And I will say yes, because they take a lot of time to establish who Strange is, setting up his time as a doctor, you know what I mean? A lot of slow moving bits. This movie puts you right into the action, you know, leaps and bounds right into the action. You know what's going on. It adds to the greater scheme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there is criticisms, there is problems. Like I said before, they could have focused on more universes outside of just 838, and the cameos are just whatever. Like, I don't think a bunch of cameos would have made this movie even better as it was. I think focusing on the core, which is a Doctor Strange movie, and then focusing on a good villain, a villain that you can get behind, which is Wanda, you know, once again having that maternal instinct to be basically delusional and to basically destroy Comertage and like all these universes and everything just to get what she wants, which is motherhood. And then at the end, where it's like she finally sees she is a monster, she is the creature, and the kids are like super afraid of her. That's just good storytelling, like riveting storytelling. Like, I think this movie is definitely better than the first film. Like, the first film is no slouch in setting up who Doctor Strange is. However, I feel like this one is just a lot more fun, like a lot more fun, a lot more of a thrill ride, and you're probably going to enjoy this one way more than the first one. Both movies are pretty great on their own rights. I'm just saying that this one right here is a whole different beast. The ending is not that great. While you think that Strange getting the eye and having the Darkhold affect him in some manner would have been a nice stinger to end off of, it's kind of ruined by the post-credit sequence, which is Doctor Strange harnessing the Darkhold powers and being ultimately fine because they need to lead into the next movie. So any kind of stinger for being concerned about Doctor Strange's well-being is kind of lost because they decided to say, hey, we're making another one, he's going into the dark dimension, we're gonna spoil that here, so you don't really feel any weight of him being in danger because they decided to say, hey, he's okay in the post credits, no worries. I thought that was kind of lame. I did not like that at all. And I guess some of the connections to No Way Home, while they do bring up that Spider-Man exists, it is lackluster that they really don't bring up more about that movie. That was a big multiversal event, and it was just skimmed over in a conversation with coffee between Strange, Wong, and America Chavez eating pizza. And I think that was a little bit shallow in my mind. I really like the growth of Stephen Strange and Wanda as the protagonist and antagonist respectively. Do you need to know about WandaVision or other MCU films before you watch this one? A little bit, yeah, because again, it's off the heels of Spider-Man No Way Home. They do talk about that. They do mention Westview. It's not really 100% required, but at least I would say up until this point, you need to pay attention to all the other Strange movies and understand, hey, his ex is in this movie. Hey, he has some events that happen in Spider-Man No Way Home. It seems like if you take the previous history of Doctor Strange out of the MCU and you're viewing and you decide to just jump into this one, you're going to be a lot more confused with the Doctor Strange side over just Wanda, because they kind of gloss over Westview just a little bit. The only thing you need to know is that she read the Darkhold and she's corrupted by that evil influence. Sam Raimi's directorial style and the way he does things is just cool to me. I like this guy since Evil Dead, and I liked him since Spider-Man, so I might be a little bit biased, but they try to bring a little bit of a horror movie feel, so you might have like some jump scares or things coming out of the shadows or the famous Sam Raimi eye close-up that he does, but it's just all within the comic book realm of fun, and Raimi makes a lot of fun comic book movies, and this is no exception to the rule. I think that horror in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is like a very violent movie. I'm talking about Black Bolt gets his whole head imploded because Wanda like closes his mouth, like fucking Mr. Anderson, fucking Agent Smith, Matrix 1 style, just explodes his whole head after his mouth closes. This is one of the most violent PG-13 MCU movies yet, and I think it attributes once again to how Sam Raimi went back and sort of tweaked some things and said, you know what, I'm gonna dabble in the fact that there's gonna be blood, there's gonna be violence, there's gonna be references. You can even hear it with the noises and how there's like super suspenseful scenes and even jump scares in this movie. Even Wanda herself as the villain, she feels like a slasher villain, just appearing out of nowhere and breaking your bones to rearrange your body. She even goes like in this whole mode of like being in the shadows and shit. So I thought that was really entertaining. I thought that was really like suspenseful when it really came down to her just stalking everybody and you don't know where she is, and the sound design just accommodates everything when you're watching the movie. These slow building senses of dread that washes over you as you watch it. I just think it's great. And also, like I said, you see stuff like Wanda just touching through the glass, and you see that through Evil Dead where Ash does that in the first movie, and it's just all cool callbacks. It's just all awesome and I love it. As for the final verdict of this before I end this review, favorite scenes, I would say one of my most favorite scenes is obviously, once again, Wanda being a slasher villain, her being a strong villain, Doctor Strange also just getting a cool arc and it being emotional, and also them doing America Chavez justice. Favorite scenes, I just like all the fights with Gargantos in the streets, or whether it's Doctor Strange getting into that zombie body as a dream walk, and then all these arms just formulate into wings, and it's so visually cool. It's a giant spectacle. This is what this movie is. And also I like the musical notes battle as well, where they're casting like magic towards each other, like two Doctor Stranges are fighting and they are taking notes from like a musical page and they're throwing it at each other, and you clearly hear there's orchestral music like pianos and violins going on throughout this entire fight, and it's so cool how they did it, throwing like musical notes and kamehamehas at each other. I just marked out so hard at this scene. So I would say, if you wanted more of a deeper emphasis on cameos or the multiverse, even though some of it is quite synonymous with the title, you're not going to get that. You're gonna get like some small cameos here or there. You're gonna get like one universe primarily focused on, and a sizzle reel of multiple universes that could have been, that might be talked about, but you're not gonna get them all displayed on screen. If you're someone who expected all that to come into the equation, you're not going to be satisfied with this movie. If you are a person that likes Sam Raimi, that likes cool visual stuff, that likes superhero horror movies, and if you are someone who is very invested into the arcs of America Chavez, Doctor Strange, Wanda, you're gonna be fully satisfied with this movie. It's gonna be divided up and down due to this sort of separation between some of these things I listed. However, that being said, I will say all the Sam Raimi stuff and all the Doctor Strange like setups work for me. The post credits is obviously Doctor Strange's future wife coming into the equation as he tries to avoid the incursion, which is the mash of two universes collapsing on each other. Clearly that's Klee from the comics, and she is the third Sorcerer Supreme, played by Charlize Theron. Hopefully I pronounced her name right, but this is her. She was on a couple of movies, but I kind of forget. It's on the tip of my tongue. But she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, and they're going back to the Dark Dimension. So they're going back down there with Dormammu, and they're gonna go down there and bargain, right? And then the last like post credits was basically Bruce Campbell punching himself out, just like Ash was in Evil Dead, and the spell from Doctor Strange wears off, and he sort of breaks the fourth wall and says, hey, it's over, implying that the movie is over. So that's kind of like something to make you stay long enough, then piss you off when you find out that this whole post-credit scene was here to test your patience right here, and Sam Raimi knew about it, and I guess that was a little play, which is, I mean, it's kind of nice, even though it wastes your time a little bit, right? To fucking waste your time into the stratosphere. Anyway, this is my review of Doctor Strange done. Also, I want to mention, I don't believe Wanda is dead at the end of the movie. She collapses the tower onto herself until I get clear confirmation. It's no face, no case. Until I see that body dead, sprawled out on the ground, I'm gonna assume she's still alive, and again, maybe she'll come back in another movie. Until I see that corpse, I'm not believing anything that Kevin Feige tries to pull. If she comes out into another movie later on and fucking shocks the shit out of us, I won't be surprised. I know it's coming. You can't fool me, you bastards. I know. Anyway, I'm signing off. This is Renegade Operative. This was a fun review to do. A little bit long, but obviously spoiler talk. I'm gonna ramble on and on and on to the break of dawn, and I'm gonna get into those spoilers right quick. You know me. If I didn't mention my score, I think it borders between an 8 or 8.5 out of 10, once again, to reiterate. So you can find me on various sites of social media right here in the links in the descriptions below. Until then, keep it freaky, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.